Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of It Starts With You with me, Vic O'Farrell. And my wonderful guest on this episode is Lottie Skuthe-Cook. I'm not going to introduce Lottie. I'm going to let Lottie introduce herself. Lottie, would you like to tell the listeners or viewers, whoever, whether you're YouTubing or listening, um, what it is that you do, the impact that you have on the world, and also what your personality style is, maybe a description on your own style.
Mm. First and foremost, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for pronouncing my surname like perfectly. That's really cool. Um, who am I? What do I do, and what's the impact that I have? I work with leaders, with teams, with people, with the whole human being, not just a part of or the executive or whatever the title is. To help them understand themselves better. But not only that, actually maximize their own potential.
Hmm.
That sounds like a cliche, possibly, but it's about what do I need to do? What do I need to understand about myself? How do I need to look at myself? And from an emotional intelligence point of view, what do I need to do to see others the way they are?
Yeah.
So whilst customer service has been, or customer relations has been the real core of my spine, it is now all about how I can work with teams and leaders. My own disc style, and I'm going to choose disc because I am, like you, a fan of disc, is DI. So I'm very much the dominant and influencing, which translates into bubbly, gregarious, out there, and at the same time as I have a lot of empathy. So I do, contrary to belief at times, I have no problems about being silent and really listen.
Yeah, well, but that's also because you're very self-aware of your own behaviors, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that's what you're saying when that's what you help the leaders. But like you say, it's not just the leaders, it's not the title. It's you
no,
help the whole team look in the mirror at their behaviors, their impact on others.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, when you say there about you you have the empathy side of you as well. I could possibly say that that's your cultural background as well, because I think you know that whilst you do perhaps, I mean, just so that listeners and the viewers know, I've known Lottie for an awfully long time. But maybe the hard exterior is actually not as hard as everyone thinks.
No.
You're actually a very warm, soft, gentle person,
Hmm.
but you don't take any of the BS that people
No.
try to give you. And I think that's the thing. That's where it comes in, isn't it? It's like I'm
Yeah,
I'm calling it out.
yeah. I don't do beating around the bush.
No,
That doesn't work for me.
no.
I don't wrap things up in cotton wool either. So and that's part of where I'm at today as well, or how I've got to where I am, is the fact that I've actually spent a lot of time working on making sure that my delivery is understood worldwide because I work worldwide, I work cross-culturally, and then it's no good in being one a Skute, so my family background, but also Swedish, because we might not always come across quite so elegant as other countries do.
And that is a big thing because both obviously we talk about personalities and we talk about emotional intelligence, but when you lay cultural differences over the top of it, has a
Yeah.
huge impact.
That's,
Um, so as I said earlier, listeners, viewers, that I've known Lottie Skuthe-Cook for several years, couple of decades, in fact.
Mm.
Hence my being able to pronounce your surname so
Yeah.
beautifully. But that's also because we didn't actually work at the same time, but I did work with and for your late husband.
Correct.
And knowing what you've been through, and it's the impact that that's also had on your life. And I don't want to tell that story. I'd like you to share that with the viewers and how dealing with that kind of trauma, I don't know how you would
Yeah.
describe it, it is impacts you as an individual.
Yeah, so actually, we're coming up for 20 years since Gary, my late husband, passed. Very sudden, very abrupt. My sons, our sons, 2 and 4 at the time. Um, and whilst it took me a very long time to figure out why this was okay at all, and I guess an early passing is never okay, at least not in my books. But for me, there is in everything, and I have learned through this, that there is in everything that happens to me, I believe there is also a gift and opportunity in it. Another word of saying it is silver lining. I like that less. For me, gift and opportunity is more to it. And I decided on the back of Gary's passing that I needed to do something for me to make sure that I kept myself and the boys on track. And that's when I started my neuro-linguistic programming course, NLP,
Yeah.
which was the looking at me. And the trauma is as what's the word? Is as deep. The cut
Yeah.
will forever be as deep as it was 20 years ago.
Mm.
I have learned to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned to be kind to myself, to show vulnerability. That's part of, and that's you were talking about, people have seen me and they see a facade, possibly, or that's how I'm perceived. And that's actually not necessarily at all how I want to come across. But yes, I am I'm acutely aware. But it has allowed me to really show vulnerability, and I believe in everything that we do. If we're able to show vulnerability, we create vulnerability based trust,
Yeah.
and that's second to none to me.
That is what's powerful. It's being able to and vulnerability. We need to show vulnerability, obviously not all the time.
Oh,
In the right, it's knowing also the power of knowing when
yeah.
to show it. And Gary was a great man. I will never forget his passing because he also passed, as you know, on my late father's birthday, the 23rd of May. It's a very powerful day, that for me. And I think it's when you said, your boys were only 2 and 4, and what your world fell apart. And hopefully I'm not triggering too many people that are listening or watching this, but it's how you used NLP to unpack yourself,
Mm.
to put yourself back together. Like you say, that deep that cut will always be as deep, but you unpacked yourself to repack yourself for yourself and your boys. What did that shift do? How did that shift manifest itself?
That's a great coaching question. Um, See, I talked about trust earlier, and through NLP, I fully learned to trust myself. By the end of the day, if we can't trust ourselves, or this is my belief, I'm not saying I'm right, but this is my belief. If we can't trust ourselves, how are we ever going to trust other people?
Yeah. Oh, all the time. 100%, I'm with you.
And I learned to trust the universe, as coaches call that very often, um, in that things would work out.
Mm.
I spent the first 2 3 years or 3 years really in complete stress around how I was going to cope. Not cope as standing up and being with the boys, but actually how I was going to cope financially. So it became a complete this on
Yeah.
me. But learning that things are going to work out, and that also this will pass at some point. And when I say that, it's not about ever thinking that a passing, when I'm talking about death or trauma that's happened, will just pass, but moments pass and therefore things are going to get better.
Yeah.
I'm also extremely lucky because I got the best upbringing possible from my parents in an innate belief in self, but I kind of lost that when Gary died. So there
Yeah.
was this rocky thing, but still the resilience bit. My mom used to say, not always for the good, I have to admit, but she used to say, brush off, get up again.
Yeah.
That can be quite damaging if we do that. But if we can combine it with emotional intelligence and knowledge about ourselves, then
Yeah. No, and maybe would you say that your mother said that because she was still in Sweden then, wasn't she?
yeah.
Yeah. So do you think she said that because of the cultural?
I think don't know if I would attribute that to culture. Our family culture, yes. But she didn't say it to me when Gary died, but she said it in, as we grew up, my sister and
Yeah.
I.
Yeah.
That's when she was like, brush off and get on with it. And she did that herself because so this year is actually huge for me because it's 20 years since I lost Gary, but it's also 30 years since I lost my father.
Mm.
My mum had gone through losing her husband 10 years previous to when Gary died.
Mm.
And she had used that a lot. Like, this is, I gotta have to move on and live on.
Yeah. Um, and I get that sometimes, it's that toxic positivity, isn't it? That we've
Mm,
got to realize that, yeah, pick yourself up, come on.
yeah.
It doesn't work. You need to also unpack the what's just happened to
Yeah.
you, so that because otherwise you never know when that's going to manifest itself.
No.
A year, 2 years, 5 years, 3 years,
And it will. It
and it
will.
will.
It
It
will.
will.
Yeah.
Well, so the conversation me and Lottie were having before I came on here is a group mastermind that I'm in, and how I unpacked probably something around my father's death that has only manifested itself now, and that's 3 years ago. So, and this whole conversation isn't supposed to be just talking about people passing and how
No.
we deal with grief, but it's how we deal with trauma that happens in
And,
our life,
yeah. And
and
adversity.
adversity.
Yeah.
Because without the layer of emotional intelligence, it comes out and we see it in what we do
Hmm.
when someone's acting, I wouldn't say it's bad behavior, but when someone's acting out of character,
Yeah.
do we ever stop and ask that person why? How do you deal when you can see someone acting out of character? I don't mean like a family member, but say if you're dealing with a group of leaders or a team and you know them well enough, but you see someone's acting out of character, how do you approach that?
I always do. And I approach it either in the group, dependent on, so in the team, when everybody is together, if I do team coaching in particular, say, what's going on here? What are you noticing? Right? And then I address that to the whole room. Otherwise, I will take people aside and say, very unlike you, or I'm noticing a difference, or along those lines, and
Yeah.
just trying to recognize. And for me, it's important then never to push and say what is going on, but actually, I'm noticing something is going on. Do you need a bit of a timeout, or what can we do to support where you are right now?
And do you know what you just said then is really key, because you don't push what is going on, and you really emphasize that word what, and with a strong Swedish accent, I might add. But do you think that there are leaders, managers, team members that don't have the time to sit back and do what you've done and just do it in a very coaching, softer way, but will actually push?
Yeah, I don't. So when you say don't have the time, that will never be a good enough excuse for me.
Mm.
We have time for what we need to have time for. We
Mm.
create time. Yes, absolutely. But that is not necessarily. So when I say we always have time, yes, if people are under pressure and stress and time constraints, plus that they may not know how to. I mean, I am like you know, we've trained as coaches, facilitators, we're doing what we're doing. That's our everyday. It's a natural language for us, but it isn't for others.
No.
So, and that's why coach as a leader is so important, you know, or leader as a coach, you know, getting to the point of using coaching techniques, not becoming a coach, but using coaching techniques. And it's not that many that know how to. So
No.
curiosity.
Would you say that's often because people end up in roles that maybe, the classic thing of like, oh, the top salesperson, oh, great, let's put them in as a sales manager. Two completely different roles.
Totally different roles, and maybe the exact perfect fit as long as said person gets the training or support on how to become a leader and how
And I
to.
think that's the bit that I see often falls down,
Yeah,
especially if they've been in an organization for quite a few years. They'll
yeah.
think, well, they know the organization. It's like, yes, but they don't have the skill set.
No,
And then that's when we lose team members, isn't it? Because they go, this isn't the job for me. It's not
yeah,
what I joined.
no.
Yeah.
And often people then have they what they do is that they simply put their own, this is the way I want things done, so therefore that's the way you're supposed to do it as
Mm.
a, you know, leader to team member, which is of course not at all the way. And feelings of threat, etc., etc. So no, that's the worst a company can do, to just simply say you're the best at this, let's move you to here and have you lead this team.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to, say, if you've got somebody who's listening to this who's being promoted to a manager or a leader and is really struggling? What would be your advice to them?
First and foremost, go to your manager or to HR or talent leads in the business. Find out what support you can get. Not all businesses are able to support or are putting value on supporting new leaders. So then go out and look for things like this, where you can find like-minded. So go, use LinkedIn, use YouTube, read, speak to people, find out, you know, find the people that you admire or look up to as leaders
Hmm.
and approach them and
Yeah,
see if they might be able to mentor you.
that's some good, really good advice. I like the find people that you look up to
Yeah.
and reach out, because and that's the other thing is if someone reached out to me, and and I have been mentoring a few people, and actually I take that as a huge compliment when
Yes.
someone says, will you help and support me?
Yeah.
um
And it's also it's looking at it, it's both looking for a mentor there, and I would actually always advise, and I do that to my coachees, I say go and find yourself a mentor in the business and one mentor outside of the business.
mm,
Make sure that they're different.
mm,
Okay. And ideally the one outside the business, not even in your industry. Learn from a leader, not the industry necessarily.
yeah.
But also look at what is it, really look at this person that you enjoy working with or working for and say, what is it that this person says or does
Yes.
that appeals to you, that makes you want to do more or feel valued, or whatever it is. Look at that and then mirror the behavior.
That's a great journaling prompt, actually, isn't it? What are the behaviors that this person is demonstrating that makes them a leader in your eyes? Because, a leader in your eyes, it's a leader doesn't choose to be a leader. A leader is chosen by the people that follow the leader. And it's like, but, people who I look up to, admire, and respect as leaders, others don't. And that's the other thing. It's always about what is it for you, the impact on
Yeah,
you. Just trying to help people to look in the mirror
yeah,
and say, what is your impact?
yeah.
Um, can I also ask though, because obviously we touched on Gary at the beginning of this conversation. If someone is listening or watching this and perhaps has lost someone in their life, not necessarily a husband at a young age, but is really struggling to deal with the impact of that, what advice would you give them?
Talk to people. Don't shut down.
Hmm.
Help the people in your environment understand that you want to talk,
Mm,
that you need to talk, and that this person is no longer here, but will never leave your heart. So therefore, we're not going to erase anything here.
mm.
Um,
I don't think we deal with death that well
I, and I
in
used
this
to have people
country.
actually changing the side of the street when they saw me because they were worried about what they were going to say to me.
Really?
Yeah, and not no malice intent
Yeah.
whatsoever. Extremely tough to experience. I don't like rejection in the first place, so for me that. But it was really tough. But I understood pretty soon why, and that was because they didn't know what to say,
Mm,
and they were not. Some people were not comfortable with. I was comfortable with my tears. I was comfortable with my emotions. Others weren't necessarily.
mm. No, you're right, actually. But people going, oh, what do I say to?
Yeah.
Because it's that off the cuff. Oh, hi, how are you? Yes, nice, well, and actually walk off. But how do you say hi? Hope you're well. Lovely day, isn't it? To somebody who's just lost a loved one.
Yeah, and yet that can be exactly what it is.
Mm,
You know, the feelings, and you have recently had your own loss with your father, Vicky, and I mean, the feelings are that it could be on a day where everybody kind of expects you to be completely down and awful and it must be horrible and all of that. It's like, no, today is fine.
mm,
But tomorrow, in a moment when I'm up in London and I see something, I fall apart.
mm,
So it's not, there is no, this is how to do it. Another thing that I always say to everybody who suffers loss or people around someone who has suffered loss is that the grief cycle is such that for the first 6 months, we tend to have everybody's running around us and helping and asking how are you and how are you getting on and what can I do and cooking and taking them out and whatever. After 6 months it dies down because everybody else is getting on with their life. That's when you need to pick up your friends who have suffered
mm,
loss and check in with them.
mm,
Because when the constant check in that I dare say, even at times, was like, okay, please don't ask again. It
mm,
hasn't changed since you asked 2 days ago. Uh, when that stops, that can easily become a shock to the system.
mm, mm. That's quite profound actually,
Mm.
because I suppose it's yeah, when everyone's checking in and then suddenly everyone stops. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
I had one gentleman, and I actually have no clue who it was. He nearly lost life. I wonder if it's a taxi driver or someone who knew us, who after 6 months ish turned around and said, "Well, I'm glad you must be over it now." Person in question meant no malice at all. There was no maliciousness in this at all. It was possibly even a projected wish from his side that I should be over it now. Well, I'm approaching 20 years. I'm not over it. I will never get over it. How could I?
No.
But I've learned to live with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, check in, but check in on people just generally, Vicky. You know, we never know what's going on in people's lives.
No, we don't. And that's when I said to you earlier, and I said, when you see somebody that's acting out of character, there's something going on for them. And I think sometimes as humans, we don't know how to approach the other person. You know, if there's something going on, I'm like, oh, you're acting. And so rather than saying to the person, you're acting.
Yeah.
Is there something going on? Do you want to share? Because not everybody wants to share, but
No.
some people would be happy that you've acknowledged that there is something. Thank you for acknowledging it. But quite often, sometimes people will go, oh, I can't approach that person. So do you know what? I'm going to say, Lottie, did you see something's going on over here with so-and-so? And then it starts that. That's very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. And because very often in an office environment, people see and hear this and feel it. So the person who is not feeling great or who's not in a good place, put it that way, will notice other people kind of talking to each other. Also, maybe slight paranoia because one knows that something is going on with oneself.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be so damaging.
Very. Yeah, we need to check in on each other.
I recommend all the people I work with, but in particular the teams I work with, that when they meet, that they do a very quick around the room. What's your word for right now? Where are you right now? And where are you on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is absolutely below the floorboards and 10 is on top of the world.
Yeah.
And then never any need for explanation around neither the word nor anything else.
No, that's powerful.
And the teams that have done that, they've come back and really said, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful.
Mm.
Oh, I can't believe we've already been talking for half an hour, Lottie.
Gosh, time to go.
I know. So, listeners, viewers, if you've been impacted by any of the conversation that Lottie and I have had in this last half an hour, please do reach out to either of us. All of Lottie's details are in the show notes, or please reach out to someone that you can talk to. Lottie, your one parting comment, piece of advice to anyone watching or listening about behaviours.
Be kind to yourself.
That's wonderful.
And don't bottle up.
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing your story and your time to everybody that's watching or listening. It's been a joy to have you on the show.
And thank you for having me.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.